Welcome to the 10th Annual Council meeting of the Global Research Alliance on Agricultural Greenhouse Gases. Now is the time to make it count. Here are some highlights from the meeting.
Hello and welcome to the 10th Annual Council meeting of the Global Research Alliance, coming to you live from Canberra in Australia and hosted by the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research. Thank you for joining us from around the world.
We're pleased to announce that we have over 150 participants from 58 countries online. I'd like to make a special mention of our new members and partners: Bangladesh, Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Samoa and Zambia. I would also like to acknowledge and welcome observer countries who have joined us today. They include Kiribati, Fiji and Papua New Guinea. I look forward very much to them joining the GRA very soon. And our new partner organisations are the Greenhouse Gas Management Institute and the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, FARA.
The time has come on this 23rd day of March 2021 to hand over the GRA chair to Australia. Professor Andrew Campbell, from now on we will be in your good hand.
Terima kasih, Pak Fadri. Thank you for the beautiful chair.
Thank you very much. Really, we are as Chile very happy to be in this meeting, and thanks you for the invitation to participate.
Australia's significant investment in agricultural greenhouse gas mitigation over the last 2 decades means that we do have technical capabilities to share with the GRA. We would like to use our term as chair to strengthen the links between the work of its existing members and broader climate change mitigation activities in our region. At a geopolitical level, we make no secret that we would like to encourage greater engagement of Pacific Island countries with the activities of GRA members. Notably, of our 64 member countries, there is only one from the Pacific. Samoa joined in September 2020, and we would love to see more over the next year. We would also like to encourage and support participation of Pacific research institutions in GRA activities, so their researchers can build experience, networks and skills in climate change mitigation. At a strategic level, we understand and strongly support the tight focus of the GRA until now on greenhouse gas mitigation in agriculture, on practical means of reducing emissions. But as Fadri said, now the collaboration is more than 10 years old, having established its bona fides in mitigation, we agree there are advantages to be gained in looking for synergies or co-benefits between mitigation and adaptation research. This will be particularly important in developing countries like small island states where agricultural emissions may be modest, but climate change and adaptation challenges are acute. Now, at a normal face-to-face council meeting, at this point, we would go around the table and vote to endorse and adopt the strategy. Under COVID constraints and this webcast format, that's not possible at this meeting. So I propose from the chair that this meeting formally adopts the new GRA Strategic Plan 2021 to 2025.
That vision statement sets ourselves an ambition that over these next 5 years we are going to really put our foot in the accelerator and build upon the very good work we've been able to achieve over the last 10 years. The way we structure our plan then is to identify effectively, I would say, pillars, or what we refer to in our strategic plan as key strategies, and these guide our work. And so we have 4 of these key strategies. One is the all-important area of research collaboration. The other is about the comms, the outreach, the knowledge sharing, the information exchange within the GRA and from the GRA to the outside international community. We speak to a third pillar of effective partnerships, which we know, particularly in times of COVID, are so important and will be increasingly important as the possibility for scarce resources exists, and we really need to make best use of those. And then finally, the notion of resources, but speaking to the need to leverage financial and other resources to help us achieve our goals. We have appointed a new administrator of the awards, and we're really pleased to inform you all that the National University of Ireland, Galway, has taken on that administrative function and will be appointing someone to work full-time in that capacity. In terms of research calls and mobilisation of resources, one is a joint call on circularity in mixed crops and livestock farming systems, with an emphasis on climate change mitigation and adaptation. Amongst the total funders, there's a total funding pot of 15 million euros available for that call. The GRA Secretariat has an agreement with a university organisation called a RU Forum. We're really pleased to inform you all that the first round took place, and these grants will support at least 22 master's students over the coming 2 years. And I just wish to highlight that we've also received a formal expression of interest from the Centre for Coordination of Agricultural Research and Development for Southern Africa, CARDESA.
If it wasn't for COVID, we'd all be in Australia at the moment, and the GRA delegates would be able to tour farms to see firsthand what steps Australian farmers are taking to reduce their emissions. And while we're unable to bring you down under this time, we have travelled around rural Australia on your behalf to talk with some Australian farmers about their journey in understanding their farm's greenhouse gas emissions and how they're taking action to reduce them.
On-farm agricultural research is a very important part of rising to the greenhouse gas challenge. We've been performing on-farm research supported by GRDC on mid-row banding of nitrogen deep in the soil for better crop uptake, more efficient crop uptake, and reduced nitrous oxide emissions from the use of that fertiliser. And that's exactly what we found, that we get better crops, savings on crop inputs, and by inference, less nitrous oxide emissions and hence reduced greenhouse gas emissions in our irrigated cropping.
At the workshop earlier today, we looked at a number of case studies of farmers in Australia that are taking practical measures to reduce their emissions. And there appear to be some very promising new technologies.
A group of Australian researchers about 5 years ago found this one particular type of seaweed that when added to the cow feed at less than 2% of the dry matter, it actually completely knocks out methane production. If we're able to work out how to scale up this seaweed to become at a level that can feed all of the cows and the sheep and the goats around the world, then it's going to have a huge impact on the climate. It's going to address a whole lot of carbon neutral agendas that different countries have, and it's ultimately going to save us all billions of dollars.
The EU is about to adopt its new framework program for research innovation, Horizon Europe, after Horizon 20, for the period 21-27. Out of the around 95 billion euros for the period, Cluster 6 dedicated to food, bioeconomy, natural resource, agriculture and environment will receive around 9 billion euros, and so will be in a position to increase the effort in agricultural research. On the 15th of March, the European Commission adopted the first strategic plan for Horizon Europe, and this strategic plan set the target of investment in research for the first 4 years.
My name is Phil Holding. I'm the Director of International Policy at the New Zealand Ministry for Primary Industries and the Council Rep for New Zealand tonight. The New Zealand government as a whole has made climate change and agriculture a top priority and committed a further 50 million New Zealand dollars in the last budget last year to support the GRA and associated activities.
The government of Canada, I think, announced about a couple of months ago an investment of about 4 billion Canadian dollars over the next 10 years to establish a natural climate solutions fund and to support activities to build a more resilient economy and a healthier, greener future.
It was really brilliant that GRA again was able to present their work at the GFFA, the expert panel, and I also wanted to mention that we mentioned GRA in the final communique, which was signed by more than 70 agricultural ministers worldwide. So that's an important point. We mentioned it last council meeting, that we need to involve policy and that we need policy briefs from GRA to look for future activities, to look for more money for GRA. And I think that worked really well during the GFFA.
In 2019, the UK adopted a net zero target relative to 1990 levels by 2050 under our Climate Change Act. And last year in December, we pledged to cut our emissions by at least 68% by 2030 through the new nationally determined contribution. In addition, we've set out a 10-point plan of how we're going to protect the planet whilst creating jobs, mobilising £12 billion of government investment to support up to 250,000 high-skilled green jobs in the UK, and looking to spur up to 3 times as much private sector investment by 2030.
It's very timely for us that we're now part of the alliance, and we look forward to scholarship opportunities and be part of research programs that are relevant in the SAMO context to address the greenhouse gas emissions, however very small compared to other countries, the emissions from livestock farming and other agricultural land use.
The Netherlands hope that this summit will mark the start of an action agenda to improve the outcomes of food systems in both developed and developing countries. The Dutch priorities for the summit are a better organized science policy interface, a multi-stakeholder approach actively involving the private sector, and national ownership and action. The Netherlands is active in Action Track 1, ensures safe and nutritious food for all. Action 3, boost nature positive production. And Action Track 5, build resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stress. So let me now continue with our involvement into the UNFCCC's COP26. The New Zealand Minister Damien O'Connor and the Dutch Minister Carola Schouten from the Netherlands agreed to partner up to organize a side event at the next UNFCCC COP26.
So we're involved in multiple parts of the Food System Summit. It's actually quite confusing. There are so many different parts. So one of the 4 levers of change is supposedly innovation, and I see, GRA has got a major role to play in that. And we have one of our characters, Dinesh, is on the leadership group for that innovation leadership team. We're also we actually organized the first and second Independent Food System Summit dialogues, and we plan to hold 3 more with various partners between April and June. Then we've seconded one of our staff members to the World Food Programme, Peter Ladarak, and one of his tasks is to develop indicators to assess, shortlist, and select game-changing initiatives.
The research groups are really the engine room of the GRA, and so I'm looking forward very much to these co-chair reports. These are the science leaders of the GRA.
The new co-chairs of the Farm to Regional Scale Integration Network from AgriBenchmark are looking to hold a meeting to introduce themselves and invite GRA members and others to join them to scope activities for the network. While regional scale activities can occur under this network based on member interest, given the expertise of the Agri-Benchmark co-chairs in farm scale economic analysis, we'd like to focus first on exploring what they can help produce at this scale that is useful to GRA members. So look for an invitation to learn more about and possibly join this network to address some of your farm scale economic questions.
Highlights from the past year included the development of a practitioner's handbook and an online platform for knowledge sharing. For the Conservation Agriculture Network, Craig Drury with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada facilitated contributions from Croplands Research Group members towards a special issue in the Soil Science Society of America Journal. 12 papers focused on the role of conservation agricultural practices on reducing greenhouse gas emissions and enhancing carbon sequestration were submitted for the special issue and are currently under review. Anticipated publication is early 2022.
As a start, a webinar will be held in coming late April to introduce new tools developed by International Rice Research Institute and its partners for MRV, monitoring, reporting, and verification of greenhouse gas mitigation. This webinar will be open not only to researchers, but also to policymakers. We hope to see many of you and your colleagues there.
In terms of our ambitions for the future, we will continue in terms of the networks to offer them support, and we in the last year have spent a lot of time trying to invigorate the manure management network and the animal health network with many conference calls and holding webinars and meetings. We plan going forward, this has been a really good success from the COVID-19 situation, and we hope to plan to bring this forward to the future, and particularly to help us to link members from across the world. So we've actually planned a program of webinars which will be run each quarter with different networks presenting at each of those webinars. So we've had one for the Manure Management Network, and we've one planned for the Animal Health Network in early May, and we find these are very successful.
We've developed more trust in virtual meetings. For example, we now have a greater use of webinars and similar approaches, and this has had strong benefits for the GRA community. We have been able to engage with large numbers of researchers throughout the GRA community, and in some ways we've actually had better engagement via the use of online tools. The co-chairs strongly support the flagship concept, although, as we've acknowledged previously, the success of the flagship concept is completely dependent on adequate resourcing. We do have some flagships underway and others under development, and we hope that there will be more active flagships in operation by the end of this calendar year.
We would like to create an international standard on the monitoring, reporting and verification of soil carbon stock change. As you know, there are many methods to measure soil carbon. There are some protocols which were agreed upon internationally, but here we are looking in the way we could measure, monitor and verify the carbon stock changes.
What is the goal of the MACB project? What we have found is that, and there is now, growing attention by policymakers, stakeholders, and researchers on the interventions that the climate change interventions that contribute to both mitigation and adaptation at the same time. What are the co-benefits? What are the trade-offs? What are the synergies? As thinking about not only mitigation but adaptation, as the climate is already changing and is projected to continue to change, affecting agricultural regions around the world. So to promote climate change action on both these fronts and the SDGs, to do all this in the context of sustainable farming systems, We are developing the simulation project to model these co-benefits so we can learn and understand really what are those interactions.
As a final note, we have an urgent need. I just want to emphasize this here because I think this has been the success of the Feed and Nutrition Network. There's an urgent need to get a new funded FNN collaborative project in 2021 to keep the FNF going as it has been doing so far. We consider as a team having such a project is really key to current collaboration and to the success of the network group. Although we are aware that peer-reviewed publications are not holy and it's not the only thing we need to achieve, they do drive, let's say, the FNN group.
This is really a question and a to be confirmed action, but we heard from Bruce, there's this idea of game changers, and so for us to all think about whether the GRA is in a position to come up with a game changer that could be fed into the mix for the Food System Summit, and I guess to be brought in this Food System Summit, we need to move reasonably quickly and have something on the table around the middle of this year for further development before the summit later in the year.
We heard amazing statements of action, commitments and initiatives from many GRA members and member countries and partner organisations. So again, I'm taking away from this meeting an enormous sense of energy and momentum as the world anticipates these big events later this year. Our wider secretariat, noting the contributions of people in not just New Zealand but across the network, now has a big job to make sure that we capture the content of this meeting and focus it into input that can be usefully applied, in particular with these big global events coming up this year, the UN Food System Summit and COP26. We've had excellent ideas about how to re-energise some of our networks, how to bring in new scientific talent, how to ensure that we're still bringing in early career researchers through the Cliff Grads and other scholarships, and how we can improve the linkages to farmers, the ultimate people at the front line. There's a lot more money sloshing around on climate change now than there was 10 years ago, and the climate change world has finally discovered agriculture. GRA is already in this space, but we need to now partner in clever ways, in strategic ways, to ensure that we retain a tight focus, but also that we are able to shape some of those big investments that partner countries are making. Thank you everybody, and it's been a tremendous pleasure hosting this event, and we look forward to working with you through the Australia year as chair. Thank you very much.